Uchenna Nworah. First of all, let me give you a little story about how my mom gave me the name Uchenna. I was born at Enugu General Hospital. Anybody knows Enugu? Okay, I was born during the war. So my mom says that she was left alone in the, in the hospital ward during the war because the fighter planes were bombing and everything. So everybody ran away. The doctors. So I'm not even supposed to be alive. So, and it was just herself and her mom. Okay, and my mom said at about midnight, I just popped out, no help. So she was like, let me just name this boy Uchenna. That means God's wish. So whatever will happen, will happen. And that's how I started living my life. So I've always felt that there was something special about me. Okay, I believe a lot in myself, and I want people to start believing in themselves. And I'm the kind of person that I have a lot of fun in life. I'm a joy person. I like joy. People that know me know I like having a good time around me because I believe there's so much wahala, as we say in Nigeria. And what that made me do, when I got the opportunity to become a managing director and chief executive officer of a company or an organization that had over 300 people working there, I said, I'm going to be different. Let me break the chain. Let me break the cycle. Because in the past, I had bosses. I've worked in London. I worked in London for 10 years. I worked in Germany for 5 years. I lived in America. Worked in Lagos. Worked for big brands. But I've always had bosses. Maybe because of the kind of person I am, They were always like, hard on me, always kicking me by the backside. There's so much aggro, anger, So I said, let me be different. So that's why people that work with me, I'm not praising myself, but I like to think that I'm the best boss in this country. Yeah, because, we eat together, we play together, we have fun together, and we also deliver. Because we've received commendations and praises as, running one of the best public sector organizations in the state. So that means that we're doing something right. So what I want to tell people is, let us be the change. Let us be the difference that we want to see in the world. Stop the aggro. Stop. Even in families, everybody is bickering, fighting for what? One day everybody will end up 6 feet under. So before I continue, please, can I ask you to tell your neighbor, are you smiling enough, please? Are you guys smiling enough? Okay, so that's by the way. Another thing I want to talk about is, really the theme of what I want to talk about is, you must start the journey yourself. I was born at the Uche General Hospital, but before my father ran away from Aba, where he was living, he had a successful business in Aba. So during the war, they moved back to Anambra State with my mom. But after the war, they went back to Aba. So Aba is like Onitsha. We're in Onitsha today. Urban jungle. Guys like us are not supposed to come out of such environments, if you know what I mean. My father was a trader. My mom ran a restaurant. So it was more money. Everybody's always counting money in the house. I used to also work in my father's shop, work in my mother's business. But early on in life, I felt that what I wanted out of life was bigger than my immediate environment. Because I buy, in the morning, just like Onitsha. I don't know whether you guys had that experience coming into Onitsha this morning. Traffic everywhere, people chasing money, buying, selling. So I've always felt like, listen, back then there was nothing like creatives. Now we call ourselves creatives. But back then there was nothing like creatives. Okay. So I said, well, this is not what I want. My father wanted me to go and study business management, like a typical Igbo parent, so that I'll come back and take over the family business. My father had Uche Nworah Sons Company Limited, building materials, transporters, general merchants, agriculturists. I could still remember all those things. And my father set up a restaurant for my mom in our family house. And guess what he called it? Uche Nworah Sons Company Limited. Hold on. Restaurant division. Meanwhile, the restaurant was run by my mom. So, but guess what? I think it's nature has a way of teaching people lessons. After a while, my father went and did some military contract in Rivers State. So they owed him, they didn't pay him. And his business went under. So he wasn't doing so well anymore. It was now my mom that now became more successful. So she was now the one feeding the family. So we switched allegiances. The kids. I remember one day, my father came back home and noticed that the signboard, they brought the signboard down. And in place was Amaka restaurant. Fair women. So, but why I talked about my father was, there was something, I learned a lot of things from my dad, but the critical thing I learned from him was humility. That's the virtues I learned from him. Humility, hard work, and most importantly, appreciation. Saying thank you to people that have done things for you. And how did he teach me that? Back then, I used to go to his, he was a contractor. So sometimes I go to his, construction sites. Not doing anything, no. But Igbo parents, they like their children learning the family business, just sitting around, just be watching, see what they're doing. So, but I noticed that at the end of every day, while he was paying the laborers, when we got back home, my father would give me money. Take. And you know what he used to say? For your efforts. I didn't do anything. I was just, maybe they brought cement and I helped him to count the cement. So that has led me all through life. Giving, the art of giving, art of appreciation, saying nice things and kind words to people. And that's what I do at work, and I introduce it at work. People call me Donatus. They call me all sorts of names, but I like it. Because anytime I do that, I notice that, it's giving people joy. And somebody is always saying, God bless you. God bless you. So I'm carrying the blessing. God bless you. God bless you. There's a popular saying that we rise by lifting others, isn't it? So that's also what I want to live with people. Learn the art of appreciation and learn to appreciate people in life. So, let me also talk about something that, I said you must start the journey yourself. Let me go back to the story I told you. I was born at Ekulobia, grew up in Aba, went to school there, but my dad did something. When I was 12, my elder brother George, who lives in America, was 13. My father took us away from Aba because in my secondary one, because I was seeing money around the house, sometimes I used to take my mother's money, take my father's money, because there was cash now. You know how it is now. Then we call it equal deal, Kako deal. So my father noticed that this boy, if I leave this boy here, this boy will become useless in his life. So what my dad did was, he took us from Enugu, from Aba, and took us to Enugu. He went and deposited me at CIC Enugu, College of Immaculate Conception, and kept my brother at Nike Grammar School. So far away from home. And then there was my Uncle Godi. He asked him to be looking after us. So that means once we go back to school, we don't go back home again until the end of the term. So do you know what that did for us? And I'm saying this now for parents. Never be afraid, okay, to let your kids move out, wander off, adventure. He taught us independence. He taught us to be self-reliant, to be also sufficient in whatever we had. So and then, what my father used to do? Once it was time to go back to school, my dad would just settle you and give you your money. Then we go to my mom's. My mom had like a provision store. Now you guys call it supermarket, but then we used to call it provision store. She would allow us carry cartons or boxes, go in there and pack whatever we needed. And you know what? We flagged down the taxi ourselves. I was 12, my brother was 13. That was in secondary 2. My brother was in secondary 3. You flag down the taxi. The taxi will take you from the house to Aba Motor Park. Who knows Aba here? Anybody knows Aba? Okay. So you go to Aba Motor Park yourself and carry your things. Then you go and pay for the taxi that will take you to Enugu. Then Aba to Enugu was 2 hours. I don't know, maybe it takes about 5-6 hours now. The road was still good. So once we get to Okonano Park, you will now flag down another taxi. I was 12. My elder brother was 13. My brother will take his taxi to Nike Grammar School. I'll take mine to CIC Owani. Independence. Parents, never ever be afraid to allow your children to wander off. Okay? So I did that for 4 years. So by my secondary 5, because then we did 1 to 5, I was so independent. I mean, I could be on my own with my dad, without my dad. So that helped me a lot in life, and it helped me in my career. So when I finished secondary school, I went to study communications at the University of Uyo. Finished. And I went and told my parents, listen, I want to go to Lagos. They were like, Lagos, who do you know there? There's no, we don't have uncle there. We don't have auntie. I said, I'm going to Lagos. How did I get to find out about Lagos? Back then, there was a newspaper called Lagos Life. It was published by Daily Times newspaper. So because I was living in Aba, and I felt that my ambition and my dreams were bigger than what I was seeing in my immediate environment. So every Friday, I would go and buy Lagos Life newspaper. And I would start reading Lagos Life newspaper. That's where I found out about the Murebus. That's where I found out about all these guys. And I started dreaming. I started seeing Lagos. So when I left university, I said, I'm going to Lagos. I went and told my mom. My mom said, okay, if you want to go, no problem. She took me went for morning mass. The priest blessed me. And that's how I went. There's a bus company called Young Shagro. Then we used to go by night bus. I went into Lagos with just a small duffel bag, a pair of shoes, because if you're going to squat in somebody's house, you can't carry a big box now. You just carry maybe 1 or 2 shirts and a pair of jeans. So that's how I went to Lagos. Because at some point, I ran into this guy that I did secondary school with, but the guy never went to uni. The guy started trading in Lagos from Ozobo. So he was spotting me. So it was from there. And I felt, well, listen, this Lagos thing is not working out. This was around at the Abacha era. And I said, let me go abroad. You know how I went abroad? I went to Egypt on my own. From Egypt, I went to Turkey on my own. From Turkey, I went to Bulgaria on my own. And I ended up in Germany. He said, yeah, I'm one of those guys you hear about that use boat to do it. Yeah, I did all that. But I never lost sight of where I was coming from. I knew what I wanted. So I said, when I went into Germany, I said, listen, I'm going to be here, improve my education. I speak and I write German. So I went to Germany, lived for 5 years, and I said, listen, I'm done. So I came back home on my own, okay? Worked in Lagos, worked in advertising, worked in consulting, and then I went back to live in the UK. Spent some time in the UK, taught in the university for 10 years as a senior lecturer. Then at some point I said, listen, I'm done, I'm going back home. And that's how I left everything and came back to Lagos. Worked in banking, worked in telecom as a GM for 6-7 years. And then finally, this is another part of the story that I want to encourage people. You see, we keep saying that Nigeria is not good. Who is going to fix Nigeria? Who will fix Nigeria? So I'm a British citizen. I left my Oyibo life. I left my wife and my kids. I told them, we're going to make Nigeria good. So I came back home. So from Lagos, I was called by the Anambra State government to come and head a government corporation, which is where I'm presently working. So, but the interesting thing about this is, I was on a 6-figure salary, and I now came back, and the salary now went. You know what I mean? Salary lifestyle dropped. Okay? But however, my joy and happiness is that the impact, you talk about impact. Impact is not just it's not measured by the amount of money you have in the bank, but it's by what you're leaving for society. So I want to encourage people, the approach that we can use to make Nigeria better for me, is a top-down approach. That means people that are successful, you've made it wherever you are, you must come back home at some point, come and help and rebuild your country, rebuild your state. Thank you very much.